From WPTV News Channel 5.
Ukraine's president says at least 40 people have been killed in attacks by Russia.
This is the aftermath of a missile strike on the capital city of Kyiv, and officials say airfields and military headquarters were also hit by the shelling. You can see here traffic is already building up as people rush to get out of the city of Kyiv. In some parts, people can be seen lining up the bank to withdraw cash in preparation of the attack.
It's been a madhouse for hours now. President Biden condemning what he says is an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russia's military. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the military operation is to protect Donbas, which is a separatist region of Ukraine. The UN Security Council openly condemning Russia during an emergency meeting hours ago.
We're here for one reason and one reason only: to ask Russia to stop. Return to your borders. Send your troops and your tanks and your planes back to their barracks and hangars.
Ukraine's president has imposed martial law across the country, giving the military direct control over civilian rule.
President Biden says he spoke to Ukraine's president after Russia announced it was beginning its military operation. A president vowed support for the Ukrainian people and says the U.S. will continue to provide assistance. President Biden will deliver remarks on this crisis later on this afternoon. A White House official says he'll be announcing the further consequences the U.S., our allies, and partners will all impose on Russia for its attack on Ukraine. We will be following the Russia-Ukraine crisis as the situation continues to develop throughout the morning. You can get those breaking news push alerts sent straight to your smartphone. Just download that free WPTV News app, and you just scan that little QR code with your camera, take you straight to where you need to go.
Now, tell us what's happening right now,
guys.
Greg.
Right now, artillery rounds. Guys, right now we are moving back from the front. The Ukrainian unit that we were with started to take incoming artillery rounds from Russian-backed separatists here in the eastern part of the country. So you can see some of the other journalists and soldiers who are with us on the front lines here, and you can hear that explosion there. Let's move a little quicker. We're good. We just got to keep moving here. Stay with us. Keep moving. If you guys can still hear us, off to the right there's a lot of incoming artillery. The Russian forces. Where's Pierre? Where's Pierre?
Trey, I don't know if you can hear me right now, but do you have a sense of how far away that fire is originating from?
Yeah, this fire is just a few kilometers from where we're standing right now. And just give me a second. I got to check in with my cameraman here. The fire that we have coming in right now is being fired from just a few kilometers away. Russian-backed separatists clearly identified there were a lot of people at that position and started to hammer it pretty heavily with artillery. You heard a few seconds ago those explosions in the distance. Those were incoming rounds. That's what the Ukrainian military has been dealing with the past 48 hours. They say they are following the Minsk protocols and that it's the Russian-backed forces, you hear in the distance there more explosions, that are violating this agreement. Remember, right now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Munich at a security conference, and he is going to be meeting with world leaders asking for support ahead of a possible Russian invasion. President Biden yesterday at the White House, Defense Secretary Austin today in Europe have both said President Putin made up his mind. He plans to invade this country, where we're at right now.
Trey, what's the response from Ukrainian troops that are there? They're taking incoming. Are they returning fire, small arms, or likewise artillery?
The position that we're standing in right now, they are not returning fire. But we've been talking with a number of Ukrainian troops. Let's keep moving. You hear that? We've been talking with a number of Ukrainian troops this week as we cover this story. And they say, returning fire within the confines of the agreement, meaning there are certain weapons they are not allowed to use. I want to give you a little bit more information, guys, about this scene. We were inside of a bunker when this artillery started coming in, talking with Ukrainian forces. The interior minister was the one here visiting troops. We were with his delegation. But as you can hear in the distance, those Russian separatists identified there were people at this location, and they've started to hit it quite heavily. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, I can hear that. You can hear that.
Talk to me. You can hear those artillery rounds coming in. We're moving right now with Ukrainian forces.
Let's keep moving. Where are you moving to?
Move.
Back toward.
I'm listening.
Back toward the main line of Ukrainian forces. So that trench position was out front of the main line, and now you're heading back to Ukrainian forces.
Yeah. We are heading back to a forward operating base where the Ukrainians are working out of. This front line has been expanding over the past 48 hours. But again, the real concern here is that, one second, guys, let's go, move. Those rounds are super close. I can hear you.
As you can see, this is absolutely incredible. This is incredibly tense. Understandably, Trey is running, trying to catch his breath. You can hear how close some of these munitions are. Trey, again, if you can hear, what type of incoming are you taking? Looks like his shot is frozen as we speak. I don't know if you can still hear us. Is this small arms fire?
These
Trey,
are artillery rounds.
Artillery rounds.
These are artillery rounds being fired by Russian-backed separatists. It's really the only thing they've been using today, but guys, we'll get back to you a little bit later. We got to get out of here. Let's go.
Okay.
You know what? At the end of the day, Trey, Trey and our team's safety is first and foremost, and we'll continue to monitor what they're facing on the ground. But and he's moving the whole time. God bless him for what he's doing.
Trying to catch his breath.
Trying to catch his breath, moving away from a bunker that's being targeted by Russian-backed separatists with artillery. Right now, they're not shooting back in part because they don't want to respond to that provocation, which is exactly what Putin is looking for. They're heading hopefully closer to safety, and we'll check in with Trey and make sure he's doing all right.
Russian tanks rolling across the border in southern Ukraine. Airstrikes hitting large cities, and thousands of people attempting to flee the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Footage from Ukraine shows scenes of war after President Putin announced a military operation in the country.
Everyone here is shocked. Everyone here knew that this might be coming for months. It was predicted and discussed. And now that it's here, it's very hard to fathom. And people here, a lot of them have fled, but a lot remain.
Ukrainian officials said strikes targeted military installations, airfields, and government facilities across the country. Air raid sirens blared in Kiev after President Putin's statement was broadcast.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции. Ее цель – защита людей, которые на протяжении 8 лет подвергаются издевательствам, геноциду со стороны киевского режима.
In the early hours of February 24th, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared martial law and called for global assistance.
Вже закликав світових лідерів задіяти всі можливі санкції проти Путіна, розпочати масштабну оборонну підтримку, закрити для агресора повітряний простір над Україною. Спільно ми маємо врятувати Україну, врятувати демократичний світ.
President Biden called the move unjustified, pledging new actions against Russia. The EU said it would hit Moscow's financial sector, freezing assets and banning the export of technology to the country.
We will weaken Russia's economic base and its capacity to modernize.
The United Nations condemned Russia's moves during a meeting of the Security Council late Wednesday.
This is the saddest moment in my tenure as Secretary General of the United Nations. President Putin, in the name of humanity, bring your troops back to Russia.
President Vladimir Putin of Russia said his goal is to hold Ukraine's leaders to account and put them on trial for the last 8 years of events in Donbass. We don't know the end game as yet, but as troops enter from various directions and as airstrikes continue all over the country, it does seem possible that Russia's goal is to make its way to Kiev, the capital, in order to take over Ukraine.
Major breaking news this hour as Ukrainian government leaders say the Russian invasion has begun. And just a few minutes ago, for the second time this hour, we have heard air raid sirens, loud sirens here in Lviv. This is in the west of the country. They persisted for some time and from multiple parts of the city. They've only just ended. That's twice this hour. And one of our local producers messaged me just now and said that on the local television, government officials are asking people to turn off the lights, gather their documents and take cover. Also asking people not to panic. A pretty tall order as what we're seeing unfold around this country continues. Okay, now an advisor to the Interior Minister is reporting missile strikes in the capital, Kyiv, the shelling of airfields and military headquarters in Kharkiv, and Russian troops landing in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Now, CNN has obtained video from Ukrainian border guards, which also shows a column of military vehicles entering the country from Belarus. That is to the north of the country, and a pretty quick shot to Kyiv from there. Tens of thousands of Russian troops have been conducting military drills in Belarus, of course, for several weeks and just never left when those drills were over. CNN correspondents in Kyiv and cities throughout Ukraine are reporting multiple explosions. CNN's Matthew Chance was on air just a few hours ago when this happened.
Oh, I tell you what, I just heard a big bang right here behind me. I thought we shouldn't have done the live shot here. There are big explosions taking place in Kiev right now. I can't see where they're taking place from this vantage point here on top of the roof of the hotel in central Kiev. And I can't explain what they are, but I heard 4 or 5 explosions a few moments ago. I don't know whether our viewers or whether you in the studio there could hear what I just heard. You could, right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I will tell you that the United States has warned
Was that another one?
The Ukrainians. Yeah, I mean, I think it was.
Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin is calling this a, quote, special military operation to protect Donbass. It is clearly bigger than that. Now, he made a surprise appearance on state television calling for the demilitarization of Ukraine, blaming the government in Kyiv for bloodshed, but said Russian forces are not planning an occupation.
Whoever tries to interfere with us, and even more so to create threats for our country, our people should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead you to such consequences that you have never experienced in your history.
Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, he went on Facebook again to address the nation. He says he's imposing martial law but urged the country not to panic.
Today, each of you should stay calm. Stay at home if you can. We are working. The Army is working. The whole sector of defense and security is working. No panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything. We will win over everybody because we are Ukraine.
All right, we are covering this from all angles. We've got CNN's Fred Plykin. He's in Russia's Belgorod region. Nick Payton-Walsh is in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Jill Doherty in Moscow. Atika Schubert here in Lviv with me, and Kevin Liptak in Washington. All right, let's start first of all with you, Kevin. I want to hear what Washington is saying about this and what they will say going forward.
Well, we've just heard that President Biden has spoken to President Zelensky. They got on the phone just before midnight Washington time, the president calling him about 90 minutes after we first heard those explosions in Kiev. The president saying that Zelensky reached out to him, the president saying he condemned this unprovoked and unjustified attack, and the President Biden saying that President Zelensky asked him to call on the leaders of the world to speak out clearly against President Putin's flagrant aggression and to stand with the people of Ukraine. And so this is sort of kicking off this wave of reaction from the United States. We do expect President Biden to get on a virtual call with members of the G7 tomorrow, mid-morning, Washington time. That is where the leaders we expect will discuss potential sanctions that they will impose on Moscow for what it's doing tonight, what it has begun tonight. And then we expect to hear from the president midday tomorrow, Washington time, and that is when we expect him to lay out these sanctions that the U.S. plans to impose. And we're hearing tonight from officials that this is going to be the full package. These are the swift and severe sanctions that the president has been promising for some time. We expect that to include export controls, restrictions on certain technologies that can be imported into Russia. We also expect the president to announce sanctions on additional financial institutions and on additional members of Vladimir Putin's inner circle. And so this has been what the president has been warning about really for months. He applied those limited sanctions earlier in this week, but he promised at that point that if Russia escalated, he would escalate as well. And so that is what we expect to hear from the president tomorrow. But tonight, we're told that the president is huddling with members of his national security team, obviously keeping a very close eye on this. Something we should note, the president, of course, had hoped that these sanctions would be a deterrent. It's clear tonight that the deterrent didn't work out. The president said in a statement that the First Lady Jill Biden, and I are praying for the brave and proud people of Ukraine. Michael.
Kevin Liptak, thanks so much. Let's go to Fred Plykin in the Belgorod region of Russia and give us a sense of what's going on the ground where you are, Fred.
Hi there, Michael. Well, the Belgorod region is, of course, right across from the border from Kharkiv, which apparently was one of the main targets of some of the fire that's been coming from here, from the Russian side. Of course, Kiev also as well. And what we witnessed when this operation started, right around the time when we just saw Matthew Chance there, started hearing those impacts in Kiev, is that we started hearing a lot of outgoing fire coming here from Belgorod. We've been reporting about it over the past couple of weeks, that the Russians have been amassing forces here, which saw a lot of armor pour into the region, but apparently also amassing artillery here and also some longer distance rockets as well. One of our producers, Uliana Pavlova, she actually saw some of those rocket salvos being fired towards Ukrainian territory, and we heard it several times. We also heard what we believe were larger rockets that may have been launched as well. Of course, one of the things, Michael, that we've been talking about is that the Russians had also brought the Iskander-M medium-range missile system into this area and other areas close to Ukraine as well. That has a very long range, is a very powerful and also a very dangerous weapon as well. So it certainly appears as though Belgorod, where I am right now, is one of the main hubs that the Russians are using to launch these attacks. But on the other hand, it's also become clear throughout the night, as we've been reporting, that this is an extremely widespread attack. You were talking about it. There was that CCTV video of troops crossing the border on a border crossing between Ukraine and Belarus. That was one of the things that had always been hanging in the air, whether or not Russian forces would also invade Belarus. I was actually at exercises last week in Belarus with the Russian and Belarusian militaries, where I asked Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko about the possibility of that happening, and he laughed it off. He said, "Do you really believe that we're going to invade Ukraine from Belarus?" Well, now it certainly appears as though that does seem to be happening. As far as some of those other possible ground invasions, we don't have confirmation yet about where Russian forces may have also crossed the border. But one thing I can tell you, Michael, is from having been in this region, really having gone down from the south near Donetsk all the way up to here to north of Ukraine to Belgorod, we did see some encampments that we saw that appeared to be Russian special forces, which would no doubt be the first ones that would go on if there was a larger ground invasion. Certainly one of the other things that, for instance, our Jim Sciutto is reporting, the U.S. believes that airstrikes could be used to try and soften up the battlefield to then obviously make it easier for Russian forces to invade. But by and large, what we see is this is a large-scale operation, a widespread operation, and certainly one that's being carried out by a lot of Russian forces with a lot of firepower, Michael.